Michael Nagy here with Jiggy Jag TV and DiscoveringBands.com. And for everyone watching, if you could share this video on my channel and help support the awesome bands I feature. And today I'm here with the Burying Kind. How you doing today?
Great.
We're doing great. How are you?
Good, good. It's good to have you. I want to start off by saying with a new project, what inspired the project to start?
Go ahead, Scott David.
Yeah, we have a friend, Ken Magerman, who had done a benefit compilation, and Dan ended up remixing one of my songs. I absolutely loved it. Knew I wanted to work with him, so kind of through Ken, we got linked up. About a year ago, COVID hit, and we'd been talking a little bit about maybe doing something, writing a song together, seeing how it went, and we decided it was a good time to do it. And next thing we know, we're writing tons of songs together, and everything's just clicking.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really fun. I'm in a band called the Joy Thieves, and like he said, I did a remix for him, and I just fell in love with not only his band but his voice. Just unbelievable. We had such a good time doing that remix, and that kind of started the conversation. And like you said, that's just a little over a year ago, and it was kind of one of those things like, yeah, maybe sometime in the future we could work on a song or something. That would be fun. That'd be really cool. And then in March, when everything ground to a complete halt with COVID, all of a sudden I had all sorts of time that, I didn't have before, as did Scott David. And it was like, hey, here we are. I think this is the perfect time to do this thing.
Yeah, and see, you got the debut album coming out next month.
Exactly. Yeah. Our first EP is coming out on March 12th. So very soon. Pre-sales are happening now, but yeah, it comes out on the 12th.
And what are you guys doing to promote the EP? Scott
David?
We've done 5 teaser trailers, one for each track. We're talking to you. We are, like Dan mentioned, we did started the pre-sale. I think that was yesterday. So working hard and just trying to get the word out there and hope that people like what they hear.
So just basically.
I'm sorry. I sent the EP out to a bunch of podcasters and people like yourself and just radio stations and stuff like that too. And the response has just been really overwhelmingly positive. It's been more than we expected, honestly. In just a very short time, it's just kind of blown our minds really how receptive people have been to the music. Very cool.
The thing that's blown us away is when we sat down, we didn't sit down to write an EP. We didn't sit down to write anything in particular. We just wanted to give it a shot, have a good time, write some music that we loved. So I think the two of us liked what we were doing, but you never know what anybody else is going to think. And I think it's completely exceeded anything that either one of us thought. People have been very kind, and it's really gratifying.
Yeah, I listened and I really like the style you guys going with, the whole Darkwave rock blend. I like it a lot.
Appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, and kind of what he was saying there is that we actually never once discussed it at all, what we were going to do. It's not like we ever had this conversation I think we should write songs like this, right? What we did find is that we both had, we just liked a lot of similar music. We wound up talking about some shoegaze bands like Slow Dive and stuff like that. And when he said that he liked that sort of thing, and then kind of from there, it's just we discovered that we liked a lot of the same kinds of music. And then, like I said, there was no discussion about, okay, well, let's write something like that, or let's do something like that. It just really kind of came very naturally. It was great.
Tell us a little about the first single you just released.
Yeah, so the first single is called Falling Over. When we started writing material, we wrote a lot. Actually, there's 5 songs on this EP, and we wrote many, many more than that. So as we were going through them and trying to figure out what do we want to be the very first thing that people hear when they hear The Burying Kind, that song to me, just actually to both of us, we had this conversation too, just really stuck out. I was like, wow, this is I think where we're headed. I think this is a great first taste for people to understand what it is that we're going for. So like you said, we just put the lyric video out yesterday and let people hear the full track for the very first time. So that was really exciting. It was great to finally, after all this time and all this effort, get it out there into the world. It was very cool.
Do you plan on doing an official video too?
Not at this point, I don't think. The lyric video is going to be it as far as the videos go. I maybe. Yeah, never say never, but at this point, I think that's going to be it. And yeah, that's it.
And you said you wrote a bunch of extra material. Is that going to maybe be for a full length, or just see where it ends up? Or
yeah, absolutely a full length.
For sure. You know, and we're continuing to write even now. So my hope is that we'll keep on writing and keep releasing material.
And that was one of the hardest parts. I mean, we really, when we were writing, and this all happened kind of last spring and summer, once we started writing and we got into the rhythm of it, it just went on and on and on. So, I mean, we really actually have a full album's worth of material that's kind of ready to go. But we thought this EP would be the best way to kind of introduce people, let them know what we're doing and all that sort of thing. And then later in the year, probably we'll do the full length. And all that material is just, it's so much fun too. Picking which ones we were going to be putting on the EP versus the full length was really difficult, honestly. But it was a fun process to get to choose.
And how did you guys come up with the name for the project, The Burying Kind?
That's Dan. Well, let Dan handle that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you know, I keep this little piece of paper over on my desk here where I come up with titles or band names or anything like that I find are interesting, and I kind of just jot them down. And somewhere in context, I heard there's a phrase called "the marrying kind," which is, and it's actually an old '50s movie too, by the way. But it was kind of a play on that phrase. And the marrying kind of refers to somebody who's, he's very sweet, and you know, it's something really genuine to say about somebody, and it kind of intrigued me. I like the little twist of it to make it kind of darker. And, you know, it's kind of funny. In the past couple weeks since we've come out, I've heard a couple people refer to it as the burying kind, which is a small difference, but people hear it a different way, and I think they think about it in two different ways too, which I find completely intriguing. And either way, it was a phrase that I just thought was kind of cool, and I threw it by Scott David, and neither one of us hated it, and so in my book, that's a success as far as a band name goes, because naming a band is tough. It's really, really hard. So yeah, it just kind of came down to the fact that we both didn't hate it, and we were kind of intrigued with it.
Definitely important that you guys like the name yourself.
Yeah, like I said, it's so hard. I mean, trying to encapsulate the sound of a band or all that into 2 or 3 words, it's just impossible. It's hard not to. It feels like they all come short sometimes. You know, it feels like they're falling short. And this one, for whatever reason, just kind of caught our fancy, and it seemed to work out okay for what we were doing. So.
I also think it's pretty cool that people have kind of come up with their own interpretations of, you know, the burying kind as, you know, the kind that would bury something versus, you know, burying, how was it phrased? I don't remember, Dan, but essentially having to do with kindness as the kind part of burying, you know, and that's not something that I had thought of at all, but I think it's really cool that it can be interpreted that way.
Absolutely. And that's why I like it, because it's a phrase that doesn't really mean anything to anybody. So kind of whatever you want to imprint onto that is what you put onto it, which I think is cool.
Yeah, it's a very intriguing band name. There's a lot of mystery about it when you hear it.
Well, and I think that's I think that plays into the music too. I mean, we kind of, I think both of us kind of enjoy the mysterious side of music, and everything that was. Back in the 90s, before, you know, pre-internet, before you could find out anything about anybody. You know, Scott David and I come from the era of walking through record stores and being intrigued by a band name and just buying it. You know, that's kind of how we came up, and so I like that aspect of it. I think it's cool.
I think a kind of a cool twist on it also was, at the time we were starting to realize that this was something, and that, okay, we're several songs into this, we're going to do this, we need to come up with a name. Throughout this entire thing, like we mentioned, we didn't have any plan of what we were going to do. So something vague that can be interpreted several ways, like the burying kind, is perfect, because I don't think we 100% knew at that time what it was,
Yeah, exactly right. So we grew into the name, and the name grew into us, kind of.
That's cool. Just figuring it out as you go, like a journey.
That's exactly right, and that was the vibe of the entire time we were putting it together. Just kind of every new song was kind of a surprise. The name was kind of a surprise. It was like, wow, it just kind of was revealing itself as we were going, which was so much fun for us to be able to do. It was great.
Now, if people want to find you online on social media, look you up, get your music, how do they do that?
Everything with the Burying Kind handle. And then our Bandcamp page is live too, so it's theburyingkind.bandcamp.com. But if you go on any social media site and look up The Burying Kind, you'll find us. And
then again, on March 12th, the album comes out, right?
Exactly. March 12th is the official release date for the EP.
Cool. Looking forward to that. And can you tell us what the next single will be, you think?
We haven't officially chosen a next single, and it's funny. I sent the EP out to a bunch of people, to a bunch of radio stations and podcasters, like I said, and it was kind of interesting because we didn't tell anybody really what to play. And over the course of maybe 4 or 5 days, all of the 5 songs that were on it got played somewhere, and I thought that was really interesting. If you don't tell people what to play, they just kind of pick and choose what their favorite one is. I think the next most friendly, radio style song is called Horizons, but we are not officially rolling out like a second single for it. It'll just be the EP release.
I think kind of the funny thing in it also is that we got back different responses of people telling us what the single should be, and each person had a different idea of what it should be. So that was really cool as well.
Well, with one track out, Falling Over, how does the rest of the EP sound in comparison to that for everyone watching right now?
I think it's hopefully a pretty cohesive EP. We tried to choose the songs so that it flowed. Again, coming from the background of listening to records, as opposed to just singles. I think it's important to have a flow to it, to have it make sense and be cohesive. So hopefully it does a good job doing that. I think the other tracks on it, there's a range of tempo and energy to them, I think. So it sort of builds and falls and builds, ending up with the final track that I think kind of takes things out nicely. So I don't know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's I love, and I know Scott David's the same way. I love putting albums together. I love putting EPs together because the flow of those songs in and out of each other means everything. And he kind of mentioned the last track on there, and it's. I don't want to call it the odd one out, but it's certainly different than the other ones in the fact that it's very long. And it's got some instrumentation that doesn't exist anywhere else, and it's just I'm a big fan of the last track of any sort of album. I think it's super important because that can be the difference between someone playing it again right away or going on to something else. So I love the way these 5 songs play together, and we just had a fun time. Part of the real fun of it was putting those 5 together and looking at the different orders and figuring out how that made us feel and what we wanted to present to people.
It's interesting that you say that, because when you listen to albums, you do notice the last track does sound usually a little different than the entire album.
I'm intrigued with the last track of records for some reason. And like I said, I think if it's a great one, a lot of times I just hit play on it again. It makes me want to hear, it makes me want to do the ride all over again. And I think that the last track of our EP does that very well. I think it's cool.
I think it's the same thing for me. I can listen to a really great album, and there can be incredible standout tracks, but it's really that last cut that sells you. I mean, if that last cut is amazing, for me, that's the difference between leaving a great album and going, that was a great album, and leaving a great album and going, whoa, I need to hear that again. And I think that's ultimately what I think Dan is talking about and that we're striving for. So hopefully that track pulls that off. I think for us, we feel that way about it. So hopefully that translates.
Yeah, and I want to ask, when live music is able to return, do you plan on taking the project live?
You know, as of now, we haven't had any discussions about that, and honestly, probably not. It's not the reason we created this thing. We created it literally just as kind of a way to write and record and release music that we like. I mean, that was kind of the end goal for the entire thing. It also gets a little strange because really kind of the Burying Kind is just myself and Scott David. I'm a drummer. He does all the vocals. But we did almost, with the exception of the bass guitar, we did everything else between us. We all, we played the guitars. We did all the synths. We did all the keys and stuff like that. I think it would just be an entire thing to make it go live. And not that it could never happen, but at this point, it's not on our radar at all.
And I think it also frees us up to do what we really love about this project is the fact that we have the freedom to create. It's about creating, and it frees us up to continue on that path. And so far, nothing's slowing us down. So I think that for us is an important focus.
And it came at the perfect time too. Like I said, I mean, when COVID hit and we had all this time, these were the songs. It was the perfect project for kind of how we were both feeling at the time. And I hope a lot of those kind of emotions come through when people listen to that too. I mean, it was kind of the sound of us trying to figure out not only the sound of the band and what we wanted the band to be, but what our lives were looking like and what was going to be happening. It was such a crazy time. And I think a lot of that energy, that kind of nervous energy came off in these songs.
I think for me at times it was sort of a life vest also. I mean, there was so much chaos going on around, so much uncertainty. And the thing I could count on was daily. I was sending stuff to Dan, he was sending stuff to me, and it was something I can latch onto and just pour all of that into it, and so cathartic.
So we can expect this to be a continuous project then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I can't. When we were saying we've been writing and stuff, and we're still doing that to this day. I mean, this is one of those things I can see just continuing on for as long as we wanted to. Really, it's the kind of synergy that we have together when we write is not something that happens frequently. I've written music with a lot of different people, but the chances of finding somebody who lock into your style of writing and just lock into an original project the way that we have is kind of a 1 in a million shot. And so, yeah, I mean, I have no intentions of letting this go.
Yeah, and I think a really cool aspect of it is like Dan mentioned, we both have our own projects as well. Dan with the Joy Thieves, me with the Covenant of Thorns. This is something that, I mean, we're not going to stop pursuing those, right? This is something that can ebb and flow as we decide is comfortable for us. So there may be times when we're focusing on other things that there isn't as much coming out. There may be times where we're completely focused on it and we're just writing tons of stuff. And fortunately, for the past year, we've been really just cranking out stuff. So there's plenty more to come.
Yeah, especially with not being able to tour or anything, this has been the perfect time for this project.
Yeah.
Exactly. We've had nothing but time to do it, and it was like I said, it was the perfect project at the perfect time for us.
Cool. Well, I look forward to what the future brings for the project, because like you say, it's like a journey, and it was good having you, and everybody look them up.
Michael, it was great talking to you today. I've seen a few of your interviews, and you always do a great job, and I love your energy. So thanks for having us on tonight. It was very cool. Great to see you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Anytime. It's great having you. For everyone watching right now, if you go to the video description, check out their music I've linked.